What's up, YouTube? So I've been seeing some of the same questions pop up on the Discord lately. Questions like, should you pull for Kana? Is Kana any good? What are the items that go on her? And ultimately, what are the pros and cons of Kana? So I'll be answering all those questions in today's video. So sit back, grab your coffee, and enjoy the show.
この一族の器の浅さを
Starting off, let's take a look at her skill set. Her active skill is Deadly Buster, which is an insanely strong skill that does damage equal to 5600% of her attack, while also increasing her attack speed and her attack stat temporarily. Pair this with the fact her attack deals 40 lines of damage at 5600% of her attack. This skill is easily the best nuke in the game at the moment. Her first passive, Revolver Fanning, temporarily increases her attack, crit rate, and crit damage by 50%. Kana's second passive, Sniper, allows her to deal out additional damage periodically with her sniper while also decreasing the enemy's critical resistance by 5% and up to 50%. Her third passive, Stop Hitting, blocks 16 enemy hits while also increasing her damage reduction, which ultimately helps her sustain in many battles as well as PvP. And lastly, Kana's fourth passive, Headshot, increases her penetration by 50%. All in all, her skills allow her to deal out crazy damage, sustain herself in battle, and to debuff the enemy all at the same time. This is what makes Kana a top tier waifu in the game. Next, I'll summarize some pros and cons of Kana. Starting off with the pros, 1. She has overwhelming skill damage. This can be used virtually everywhere in the game. This can be good for farming, pushing adventure mode, and killing bosses such as Ancient Dragon. 2. Her third passive blocks 16 enemy hits, which is very useful in PvP if you care about that. 3. She's a DPS that has a debuff. The only other character with that right now is Lilith. 4. All her other passives make her a strong auto attacker. 5. Kana works well with Yui along with most other compositions. And 6. Kana has a very good performance with Mary in PvP if you care about that, since Mary has blocks too. And lastly, 7. Kana is great for the light raid boss and the leaf raid boss since she is a fire archer. Now, I didn't find many cons, but here were a few to note. 1. Kana performs poorly on the fire raid and the physical immune raid, in addition to guild territory stage 24, since that boss has a resistance to fire and physical attacks. And 2. Because her ultimate has such a long cooldown time, she'll require high amounts of cooldown reduction. Otherwise, someone like Mary with a much shorter cooldown may be better in some situations. And before any of you guys go in the comments and ask why I didn't mention Kana in slasher mode, it's because I think there are better characters for that particular mode. Sure, Kana has a great nuking skill that can obliterate bosses, but Artemis and Cain offer the same thing but with shorter cooldown times. You'll need these nukes pretty frequently, which is why Kana was not my first choice when it comes to slasher. As for clearing the minion waves, I would prefer someone with a haste such as Belphegor, Mary, or even Lilith. You can get away with having lesser amounts of cooldown reduction on these haste characters, as they don't need max cooldown reduction to constantly keep their haste up. Their haste, when paired with monster penetration, allow for the quickest evisceration of these monster waves. And lastly, I'll entertain the question, what items are best for Kana? I'll just preface this by saying there's no best when it comes to equips, and it really depends on what your other characters are wearing as well, but I'll give you some suggestions. In the end, you'll just have to experiment and see what works for you. That's the fun part of this game. For beginners who may not have all the late game 5-star sets, I would recommend either the Ares set, the Light Armor set, or the Dragon set. These are some of the earlier 5-star sets that you can attain, and they're designed to be for your damage dealers. Out of these 3, I like the Armor set since it provides a little bit of everything. As for the best weapon for Kana, it would obviously be the Ascalon due to it granting additional crit damage and boss damage. However, some players might have Cain wear this. Some alternatives could be the Dragon Blade if you wish to have Kana ult at the start, or in some cases, you may put Excalibur on her if your healer is using something else. However, I would recommend keeping the Excalibur on your healer, since its unique 50% attack stat enhances their healing. Another alternative could be the Erendite with cooldown reduction options. Cooldown reduction will definitely help Kana, however given that the unique option of Erendite has a 2% chance to cast an attack buff, I just don't think you can rely on this weapon as much as something stable such as the Ascalon, but it is an option. Lastly, if you're farming or using Kana in slasher mode, I'd recommend using the swords with monster penetration such as Durandal or Mistletoe. A plus 35 monster penetration sword works more effectively than a plus 60 Ascalon when it comes to clearing waves in slasher. To summarize, if you need to burst a strong boss down, I'd recommend Ascalon. Otherwise, if your Cane benefits more from using that, then you can't go wrong with putting the Dragon Blade or any of the alternatives on Kana. She's that good. Now for the middle to late parts of the game, there are a few different armor options you could try. You could do a combination of 3 White Dragon and 2 Demon, a complete 5 Witch set, or even a 2 Slasher and 3 Witch combination. It really depends on what your other characters are using and what sets you can afford to split up. Try these out and see what works for you. This is what the majority of players in the Korean server have been using to my knowledge. Again, the weapon can be Ascalon, Dragon Blade, or alternatively any other weapon could be sufficient if it has a high cooldown reduction that makes her total CDR 60%. Next, I'll summarize her collection bonuses. The bonuses you can acquire from having Kana include permanent increases in critical resistance, increased damage towards normal monsters, and increased attack power. This applies to everyone on your team. And lastly, I'll answer some miscellaneous questions about Kana. If you're starting out, who should you prioritize in upgrading? If you care more about raid, then I'd suggest working on Cane and your healer, ideally Yui if you have her. If you care more about pushing adventure mode, I'd recommend focusing on Kana first. Next question, who is better, Mary or Kana? If we're talking about straight up DPS, then Kana obviously wins. But I also don't want to disparage Mary either. She has her moments. She's still a top tier DPS who can be a substitute for Kana, especially when you are up against an enemy resistant to fire. Since Mary is Leaf, she can fill this hole. They're both phenomenal in PvP. Mary is better in slasher mode in my opinion, whereas Kana is better pretty much everywhere else. And to end the video off with the simplest question in summary, should you pull for Kana, and who should you pull first? Whether you're starting out or having been playing for a while, here's my thoughts. If you're brand new, I would focus on getting Kana first during her banner, and getting Yui second, since Yui's banner happens every weekend, whereas Kana's banner will most likely occur only once a month. If you have Yui and don't have Kana yet, I would make her one of your next priorities by either saving up your rubies or filling up your pity bar until her banner arrives so that you can get her guaranteed. In summary, Kana is arguably the best damage dealer in the game, with the best nuking skill at the moment. Her passives make her a great auto attacker, resulting in a character perfect for farming, pushing stages, and overall excelling in most areas of the game. When I really thought about it, there were not really any weaknesses for her that I could think of besides for her need for high cooldown reduction. To answer the question previously stated, yes, you should pull for Kana. You won't regret it. I hope I did a good job answering all your questions about Kana. If you agree, please let me know by liking the video or leaving a comment. If you have any further questions, feel free to write them in the comment section below. I also made a new Instagram where I'll post things related to gaming and anime, so if you're interested in that, please give it a follow. I also made a Twitch account, but I haven't done anything with it yet. Not really sure if Swordmaster Story is something worth streaming, but if you want to see that, let me know. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.